ICE must get out of Minnesota now?
Well, if democracy means anything at all, it means that this administration must be allowed to carry out the agenda the American people voted for.
And expressions with exclamations. The room was already tense. You could feel it. One of those moments in Congress where nobody is really listening anymore because everyone knows what's coming next. And then Bernie Sanders stepped forward, voice raised, hands shaking, eyes locked in like he was delivering some final warning to the nation. He didn't sound like a senator. He sounded like a man declaring war. Bernie launched into a full-blown rant, painting ICE agents as monsters, as if federal officers were roaming the streets like some authoritarian army. He wasn't just criticizing immigration enforcement. No, he was accusing America itself. He shouted about dictatorships. He claimed people were being kidnapped. He threw out words like terrorizing. And suddenly, it wasn't a policy debate anymore. It was a spectacle, a performance designed to inflame. Bernie demanded ICE
And must never be about federal agents shooting American citizens down in cold blood, breaking down doors to arrest people, or sending 5-year-olds to detention centers, all in clear violation of our Constitution. That is what takes place in dictatorships, in authoritarian societies, where there is not a rule of law. It does not and it must not be allowed to take place in the United States or any democracy on earth. So let me be very clear. ICE must get out of Minnesota now. ICE must get out of Maine now. ICE must stop terrorizing the American people.
The senator from Missouri.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we hear a lot of talk from the other side about democracy. Well, if democracy means anything at all, it means that this administration must be allowed to carry out the agenda the American people voted for. Enforcing our immigration laws, securing the border, and deporting immigrants who are here illegally. This is not a new concept, by the way. Democrat presidents for the last 20 years have done this. But the other side never had any intention of letting this happen. President Trump moved forward with his agenda. They were never going to let us enforce our immigration laws against those who had broken them. Why is that? Well, because mass migration is not just one policy preference among many for today's Democrat Party. It is the policy priority, the fundamental organizing principle of their entire agenda. It is the foundation of their platform and the final end of their worldview. Not one single Democrat has called on leftists in the streets to stop impeding law enforcement with their cars or to stop physically attacking law enforcement. Not a single one. They have zero interest in lowering the temperature. At this point, it's so obvious it almost feels silly to say. In Minnesota and here in D.C., Democrats are actively and intentionally adding fuel to the fire. The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, has claimed his city is invaded, under siege, occupied. The lieutenant governor of Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan, declared that our neighbors are being disappeared. It's just called kidnapping, and publicly called upon Americans to put your body on the line and not go silently into the night. The governor, Tim Walz, compared the ICE presence in Minnesota to a Nazi occupation and likened residents of Minneapolis to Anne Frank. On Monday, Walz published an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal declaring that the Trump administration's assault on Minnesota is a campaign of organized brutality against the people of our state. Just last week, he stood behind the metal gates of the governor's mansion with a bullhorn and told the crowd of protesters outside to go and cause trouble. These aren't unique examples. They are par for the course. Over the last month, we've heard similar things from just about every powerful Democrat in this country. I don't know what's in each and every one of their hearts. I don't know that. I don't know if they really believe that we're at war, or that ICE is the Gestapo, or that Minneapolis is under Nazi occupation. But whether or not they believe it, many of the people who hear them and listening to them do. And now, many of those people are taking these ideas to their final logical conclusion. And that's exactly what the people in power on the left actually want. They want the confrontations. They want the chaos. They want their conscious political strategy. That's what this is. Their conscious political strategy. They have decided that leaning in and ratcheting this up as far as it can go serves their political and ideological interests. So they're all in. And by the way, might I just point out, they're about ready to shut the government down again. They shut it down the first time because they wanted health care for illegal immigrants. Now they're willing to shut the government down, including FEMA funding and TSA funding, because they want to stop deportations of illegal immigrants. It is the single organizing principle of their party right now. Think about that for a moment. Really sit with this. Think about what it says about the kinds of people we're dealing with at this point. In a better era of American politics, we used to say things like, we all want what is best for the country. We just have different ideas about how to get there. When you hear statements like the ones that I just rattled off, it seems harder and harder to believe.
Organizing principle of their entire party. Not compassion, not reform, but chaos. He pointed to leaders in Minnesota comparing ICE to Nazis, to Anne Frank, to occupation forces. And Schmitt didn't hold back. He called it what it was: inflammatory, reckless, and intentional. He warned that Democrats weren't trying to calm the country down. They were pouring gasoline on the fire because confrontation served them, chaos served them, and stopping deportations mattered more to them than funding FEMA, more than TSA, more than the stability of the nation itself. Bernie's words had sparked the match, but Schmitt brought the explosion. And by the time he finished, the question wasn't whether Bernie went too far. The question was, did Eric Schmitt just expose the entire Democratic strategy in one speech?